Our next guest is ready.
Let's do it.
We love talking equipment. Let's welcome in one of the top racket technicians in all of tennis, an expert. There he is. All right, Dustin Tankersley.
Yeah.
I was going to say stringing rackets for many of the big events, including Indian Wells. So, Dustin, it's nice to meet you. You got myself, Jan, Mike, Nick, and of course, Tracy. We just saw Musetti needed some new fresh sticks strung. Are you not busy right now?
No. Yeah, we've got some stringers that are busy right now, but I got to sneak away for a few minutes.
Appreciate
You said
it.
you're not stringing as much, but what is the trend, would you say, for the players? Kind of the range of where they like to string, and then who's the loosest and who's the tightest?
Yeah, most of them are in the upper 40s, low 50s, and then Manarino's always the lowest. He's doing around 22 pounds.
22?
How does he keep it in?
Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty incredible.
And then who's the tightest?
Arike, she's a doubles player on the women's side that she
From
always
Norway.
wants as tight as the machine will go. So here it's 82 pounds.
How is her arm still going?
What?
Wait, as tight as the machine will go?
Yeah. So at every event, she walks in and says, "How tight will the machine go?"
No way.
Yeah, we've done as high as 90 pounds with her before. Yeah, she's
Does she string it with poly?
she's playing a pretty stiff poly too, 4G, which is a string that's supposed to hold tension well, and it's pretty firm. So
Wouldn't that hurt your arm, guys? I mean, I don't play with poly.
I don't know.
I'm thinking about it.
I thought Jan Mike was crazy. He's saying he strings at 71, but if she's going 90 pounds, that's insane.
Yeah.
Dustin,
Bow
what
down
have
to her.
what have you found has been kind of the move in types of string? You know, I used to use all poly, and it kind of got my elbow after a while, and so then I started going gut in the main, poly in the cross. Are you seeing that players are still going mostly poly, or are they trying to kind of hybrid it?
yeah, most are still going full poly. It's all about control and being able to keep the ball in the court. There's still some that use gut mains and then a poly cross, and there's a few that'll use a poly main and a gut cross, but still the majority is full poly.
And what's the difference, Dustin? Tell maybe the fans what the difference is if you put gut in the main or if you put gut in the cross.
Yeah, so if you put gut in the mains, the feel you get from the string is typically mainly from the mains, because they're a little bit longer, so you're going to get the feel off of that string more than you would. If you put poly in the mains, it's going to be more of a poly feel. If you put gut in the mains, it's more of a gut feel. So it's a little bit livelier. I think you can generate more spin with gut in the mains because there's more snapback. The string will slide and snap back better to generate more spin. But there's still a lot of players that like poly in the main because of the feel of the poly.
Roger did that, right?
Yeah, Roger was gut in the mains, and then Alu Ruff, Luxilon Alu Ruff in the cross.
Dustin, how many rackets on, like, let's say the busiest day, which I guess would be day 1 and 2, most players still around. How many rackets do you guys string on a given day?
So we did over 400 on the busiest day here this year, which is a record. I think previous record was 387. There's 12 stringers. I kind of fill in as a 13th stringer when needed.
Yeah.
And then just kind of help wherever they need me as far as cutting out rackets, stenciling rackets, taking in rackets at the front desk. So I just kind of help wherever they need me here. But yeah, we've had some busy days.
How fast are they stringing rackets these days? Because, I mean, I know it's got to be quick. If you see Musetti send a racket, you guys got to be, what, 10 to 12 minutes?
Yeah, we try to average around 17 minutes from the time it enters the room to it leaves the room.
Wow.
Typically, it's about 15 minutes total. And then, here, the racket goes from the court to the room, and then, it takes a few minutes to get to us, and then by the time we get it done and then back out, it's taken about 30 to 40 minutes typically. It's just part of the process. We get it done as quick as we can, but it's more about quality than speed anyway.
Sorry.
No, you for sure.
Oh, well, I was wondering, a lot of you guys travel around. You're doing a lot of events, not just Indian Wells. Dustin, how many events are you doing in a given year?
Yeah, I'm doing about 12 events. I do 5 to 6 challengers every year, some women's challenger level events, U.S. Open, French Open, Indian Wells.
Can't forget the Labor Cup. You did the Labor Cup last couple of years.
Yeah, Labor Cup as well. Yeah, that's a fun event. It almost shouldn't count because it's so easy for us.
You. Not that many.
There's so few people.
Yeah.
But Dustin, so many players want their racket strung on the day. I mean, club players, it's like they have their string in their racket for 3 months, so it's not going to make a big difference.
Yeah.
But how important and how early do you guys get here? Do most players also, do they string 2, 3, 4 every day? How much?
Yeah, it depends. Like some players are doing 1 or 2 for a match. Some players are doing 6 rackets a match. It just depends on.
Is it the wealthier players that are doing 6?
I would say if it helps.
Right.
Yeah. They're not worried about as much how much it costs to string. They're focused on making sure the rackets are more
Fresh.
consistent.
Yeah. And how
'cause
early you get here?
We get here about 7:30 every morning.
Dustin, how much is it a racket? Because we were talking about sending 6 to 8 rackets. How much is it a racket for the players to string it?
It's 27 here.
Okay.
Yeah.
7.
And do they get the string? I haven't been out there in a long time. They get the string free, or are they paying for it?
They bring in the string,
Yeah.
so it really depends on what brand they're using.
I see.
But yeah, they get the racket and strings from manufacturers, and they bring us the string, and we string it however they want.
Were you the guy? Were you the ones at fault for Tiafoe not remembering to bring his rackets on court? Were you,
Wait, so he brought his bag, and the rackets weren't in there?
No rackets.
Oh, he brought his bag. Oh.
What happened there, Dustin?
Look at David.
I don't know
David
exactly what happened, but I know David picked the rackets up earlier that day, so we didn't have the rackets.
Wait, didn't Francis feel like the bag was a little light?
Well, if David picked
would
them up
think
earlier
so.
that day. They were probably in Francis' locker, and then he forgot
I
to get 'em.
misunderstood. I misunderstood this situation. I thought he didn't even bring his bag out there. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
that's
he got
this
the
is
racket.
different. This
Yeah,
is.
but guys, wouldn't the bag
Yes.
feel light?
Well, of course. That's what we
It
were
would
all
feel
asking.
light.
It should feel light.
But he's strong.
That's Francis.
Strong kid.
Anything can happen.
Yeah.
Anything can happen with Francis.
That's like Kyrgios when he forgot his shoes.
Yeah.
Dustin, I'm thinking more from the casual players at home because Tracy touched upon it. But let's say you're a club player and you're just decent, whatever. If you're a UST rating 3.5, 4.0, whatever it is, you play once a week, but you don't break strings, you don't hit it that hard. How often would you recommend that these players get a fresh string job and cut the strings out?
Yeah, it depends on what string they're using. Like natural gut will hold tension and play better, keep the playability of the string longer than any other string.
Okay.
So if you're using natural gut, I usually try to get players a string twice a year. And then everyone else, a string is going to last about a couple months for all of us. The strings it goes dead and it doesn't play as well, and then it's harder on your arm. So
Because it gets stiffer, right?
yeah.
So a couple months, you said.
Yeah.
Well, that's for the poly.
For the poly,
Because it
got it.
gets harder. Yeah,
Yeah.
the gut, I use gut, all gut.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I think if-
don't string
Yeah,
that
it's
often
right,
because I
yeah.
don't care what tension it is.
Yeah, and when I was working with, like 3.0 level players, I would just try to get them to string once a season. String the racket before the spring before the fall, and that's still not quite enough, but it's better than most.
Dustin, talk about customization of rackets, because you've actually you've customized some of my sticks before.
Yeah.
Are you customizing any of the top pros out there right now? And then what are you finding are pros wanting to go heavier on their stick, lighter on their stick? Kind of what's the trend these days?
Yeah, I think the trend is definitely going lighter, where you're not adding as much weight to the head because guys are having loopier swings and they're trying to get more racket head acceleration.
So lead tape?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So the racket head, they're putting weight more towards the tip of the racket versus the sides.
Okay.
So yeah, it's definitely a little bit lighter than it used to be, but they're still heavier than most recreational players.
I would think with the arm, give
Yeah.
us a couple of tips because a lot of my friends at home at my
Yeah.
club have arm issues.
Yeah.
First of all, their technique's not great. Don't tell them that. But that might be one of the reasons. But what other things can they do with the racket string, type of string, and tension?
Yeah, natural gut is the best. Absorbs shock and vibration better than anything. It's also the most expensive, but it's better for your arm than any other string. So
Maybe stringing it a little looser.
definitely.
And certain rackets are too stiff.
Yeah, stiffer rackets are harder on the arm, but typically like the lighter rackets are stiffer, so you can get the power from the lighter rackets. Mass is always good too, but you got to be careful that you're not adding too much, because then that puts more stress on the arm too, because you're catching the ball late.
Dustin, when you guys string the rackets and you guys put it in a plastic bag for the players, what does the plastic bag do for the players? I know I would always get the plastic bag and I was like, well, it looks cool, it feels cool, but what does the plastic bag do when you put it around their stick?
Yeah, well, the original design was to protect the gut from humidity and moisture, which also I think helps with tension maintenance. But over the last 3 or 4 years, we've stopped using poly bags. It's mainly, it's more about the environment and what that does versus holding tension a little bit better or keeping some moisture out of the bag.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was just the gut that was the problem, especially in places where it might rain and you don't know and you don't need it anymore. It does look good, and you can put your logo on it, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's better to save those.
Dustin, Did you guys use shock absorbers or light absorbers? What about you?
Maybe for like half a year. When I was like
I
12.
think everyone's always told that it's just a feel thing, and everyone at home that's used one or hasn't can feel the difference. Is there any little difference in performance or anything if you use a shock absorber or you don't?
Not really. It changes the feel and the sound more than anything.
Yeah.
It does absorb a little bit of shock from the string vibration, but not as much for the racket vibration. So it's not really helping your arm very much, if at all, but it's mainly changing the feel and the sound.
What about those rubber bands? Didn't Agassi use a rubber band?
Yeah.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, it's the
same
same kind
idea.
of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Dustin, I wanted to ask you a couple things. One is about, would you tell players, let's say juniors, pro players, to travel with your rackets, to take them on the plane with you or put them under the plane? Does that affect the tension at all as far as that's concerned?
Yeah, definitely. Extreme heat or extreme cold is going to affect the tension maintenance. So the string will actually go dead quicker if it's in extreme heat or.
So carry it on
So
the
better
plane.
to take
Yeah,
it
I
on the
would-
plane with you.
Definitely better to carry it on, for sure.
And then the other thing is, let's say I have a racket, it's gotten strung maybe 3 or 4 times and I have a particular tension, great. Now I get a new racket and I bring it to you to get it strung. Should I have you string it like 2 pounds tighter? Is it gonna loosen up because of the grommets? Because the grommets need to now open up a little bit, right? So is it?
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
should you string it a couple pounds tighter so that it'll loosen up to get to your natural tension?
Yeah, I definitely recommend going up 2 pounds. You know, a lot of times at events, we do whatever the player asks because we don't know if they want us to, you know, adjust that for them or not. Or but at home, whenever I have a customer that strings at 52 pounds and they get a new racket, I always go up 2 pounds.
Okay, gotcha.
Just so it's more consistent because the grommets do settle and will be a little bit looser.
So what's the craziest ask you've ever gotten? The 90 pounds is pretty crazy, but is there one?
90's a joke.
Yeah, that's got to be one of the craziest ones. There's not that many like that. Yeah.
Okay.
What about like a player that like you string it and they come back, they're like, dude, this is not 60 pounds. Like, do it again.
Yeah, well, that happens, right? I mean, sometimes we're
Yeah.
at tournaments and we'll be like, wait a second, the stringer, it's tight this week,
Give us a
or it's
grumpy
loose this
player.
week. Has that happened to you? Where
So
they're
there
like, hey,
are
man.
stringers that are tighter and some that are looser, like the
Well,
way they string?
Yeah, a lot of it has to do with each city they go to. There's different string machines, different people stringing. So every city is different. So a lot of times they'll come in and ask, you know, are the machines tight this week, or what have people been doing? And I've even had someone before like pick up the racket and hit it with his hand and go, no, it's too tight, go down 2 pounds.
Yeah.
So yeah, some of these guys are so in tune with their equipment that they can even just hear the pitch and know that it's not right.
Was that a
In tune or a
freebie or
little
is that another
crazy?
27 bucks?
You know.
In tune or a little crazy?
Yeah.
No, but here at Indian Wells, the conditions are different. You know,
Yeah.
air, light.
Yeah.
Are the players stringing it tighter, the same as every week? Is there anything that's different?
But they haven't really, I mean, maybe gone up a little bit because they say the ball's flying a little bit more than, I guess, the previous week.
So
but-
gone up in tension?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then a lot of it depends on when they play. The players that are playing night session have been going down a little bit because it's cooler. And then the ones that are playing there today gets pretty warm, so they may go up a little bit.
What's up a little bit? 2?
2 pounds? Yeah,
2 pounds.
typically, yeah.
Dustin, what's you know, we're talking about kind of the cost of getting your rackets restrung. You're saying $27 at Indian Wells. Is it more expensive at the Grand Slam? Because if I remember, it was like 30 something or $40. So
Yeah.
kind of what is that price at a Grand Slam? And do you think it should be the same at every tournament? Because I feel like shouldn't really be that way, where it's 45 at US Open and 27 at Indian Wells, then you go to a Challenger and it's 20, you know, so it's kind of
Yeah.
all over the place.
Yeah, it's definitely more expensive at the slams, but it's also a bigger operation. At a slam, you usually have 22 stringers, so there's a lot more expense that goes into it,
Okay.
and I think that's the reason why it is a little bit more
Gotcha.
expensive. It's not just because the players are making more money. And then at the challenger level now, the standard's kind of $25.
25.
Because it's, you know, the expense it takes to get there and get machines set up and all those things. If you're charging less than that, you're really not going to make much money,
Gotcha.
if any,
Yeah.
with your expenses. And then I think maybe $30 is kind of where this event probably should be at some point very soon. And I think the slams are 35 now.
35. Okay.
Yeah.
Dustin, how often do players
We're on,
take a
Dustin.
racket that they've not even played with, not even hit
Oh,
a
all
tennis
the
ball
time.
with, and they cut it out? I mean,
All
I
the
think
time.
fans at home would be
Yeah.
incredibly surprised at
Yeah.
that. Like all the time, almost every single day,
Yeah,
they don't hit
every
with a
day.
racket. Every day.
Yeah.
Haven't hit with it. But so
Yeah.
how much tension would it lose overnight?
So it's going to lose a few pounds, but for us that doesn't mean anything. But for them, that's the difference between hitting and missing shots.
Yeah,
so
great point.
so they definitely will string whether they hit with it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to get an extra 60 grand by winning that match. You can do another 27. Dustin, we're crushing you. When you go to a dinner party and you meet some tennis fans, are they just like, Dustin, what's
racket do I use?
Dustin had no
What
idea that he
string?
was getting into this. When
It's
when I saw him at the Cleveland Challenger in February, I said, hey, you're going to be in Indian Wells, right? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, all right, we got to have you on the show, tell us all things. I don't think he knew we were going to crush him like this.
What's multi-filament? What is that? I got an alert viewer question here. Multi-filament string.
So natural gut's a multi-filament.
Okay.
It's a lot of fibers that are twisted together
We
to
call
make
them
the
sticks.
string.
This is
versus-
science class now.
Yeah,
I
versus
like it.
polyester is a monofilament, which is just one solid core.
Mono.
What have you found has been the most popular string that the players are using nowadays? Because we hear of Luxilon, Selinko, the RPM Blast. Is there kind of a popular string right now?
It's interesting. I think on the tour level, most of the players now are using whatever string that their racket manufacturer wants them to use. Well, not wants them to use, but it's more racket-based than it used to be.
Okay.
Like Selinko was very popular, and I think all of the racket brands are tying into their contract that you need to play with their string. Luxilon and Wilson are kind of together. Head has some good strings now, so a lot of their players are using head strings.
Yonex as well.
Yeah, Yonex as well, for sure. Selinko's still out there, but it's just not as big as it was at one point. I think they had a ton of college players that were using it that turned pro, and then it was everywhere. But now I think the bigger brands are saying, you got to use our string or we're not going to pay as much money, or, and I don't know exactly how that's working, but that's what it seems like to me.
Dustin, I don't know anything about the poly strings because I probably tried it for half an hour, knew that my arm was not very happy, went back to the gut very quickly. But is there something that's kind of uniform? Like, because if you're a head player and you don't like that head string and you want to use the Wilson string, is that going to work? Is there something in each brand that's kind of uniform?
Yeah, just like every, if you wanted to play with a brand, you'll find a racket in that line that you could play with.
Yes.
There's a string in pretty much every line.
Okay, well, that's good
they're
news.
not copying each other, but they're trying to make comparable strings. So if you use this string, then okay, try this string.
I like that because that's pretty
Otherwise
important.
you can buy it. You can always buy it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the strings is something that the racket, the strings, and the shoes, I think, are non-negotiable.
Dustin, what about the color of the string? Does that change the way that it feels? Because, we had a company, Toro Line, that has now different colored strings. And does that change the way it feels for a player?
Yeah, anytime you dye a string, it changes the characteristics of that string a little bit, changes the feel, playability. But
what does it do?
It just kind of depends
What does it
on
do?
where
Not
you
as
start.
good?
Not necessarily. It's just different, So, like if you had a natural colored string and then a black string, they're going to feel slightly different, even if it's exactly the same string.
Interesting.
What about the stencil? Would that do something, then?
No.
Not really, because it just kind of covers the string a little bit. So it's not really, the string is what's performing.
It doesn't soak into the string.
Yeah.
Are you gonna ask him?
Dustin,
You don't have to tell us.
Well, kind of. I want you to tell us. A lot of talk is on Tsitsipas's racket. Do we know what it is? Can we tell the viewers? Or
We're actually not stringing for him. He's a private service guy.
That's smart.
So
That's
I have
smart.
So then
pretty
you can
good
tell us
idea
because
what
you've
it
seen
is,
it.
but-
Yeah. So then you
Oh,
can
that means
what's
that he
a
brings
pretty
his
good
own
idea?
stringer.
No, hold on, Dustin. What's a pretty good idea? What do you
sniff if
think?
it's a blue
What do you
batty.
think? What's your idea of what it is?
It's a competitive brand that,
From Wilson.
yeah.
Yeah.
Dustin knows. It sounds like
Dustin
Dustin
knows.
knows.
Come on, Dustin.
Come on,
Everyone
Dustin,
thinks
come
it's
Dustin,
on.
you're sitting next to a Hall of Famer. It's okay to tell us.
Everyone thinks it's
And I
Babolat.
think there's been articles on it
We've
too.
seen
of
we've
what
seen
it
the
is.
grommet.
Yeah.
It looks like a
Yeah, it looks
Babolat.
like a
Yeah.
Babolat.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever had like
that
a
right?
string off with the guys in work? Like 1, 2, 3,
1, 2, 3, go.
Who wins?
Not at this level. Maybe like when we were young.
don't
but
ask me that again.
First
Not
question
anymore.
you
So
hated.
he's allowed to
hated
put
that
the,
first
does he
one.
have
No,
the
he hated
stencil
it.
on, the W
No.
stencil?
I think so, yeah.
Is he allowed to do that?
Well, I guess he is.
Dustin
He
doesn't
is.
know.
I
He's
guess
not
he
the
is. He's been doing it.
He's not the agent.
He's winning with it.
We learned a lot. That was as rapid fire as we've ever done. Dustin, thank you for taking time away. I know it's a
was.
busy tournament, but I don't know. I really think everyone at home learned a lot.
I have
and we
one
really,
more.
Yeah,
Where are you going to dinner?
yeah.
What?
Where are you going to dinner?
Nobu. Go to
here.
Nobu.
You eat here. You don't ever get away from this place.
Not really, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
So what
we'll
time-
let you go now.
Well, what
Dustin.
time do you get there and what time do you leave? What's the average string or day?
So average, we get in around 7:30, and then we leave around 8:30 or
Okay.
so, somewhere in there. And
Okay.
we usually we'll have two guys that stay all the way to the end to the last ball, and then they'll come in a little bit later the next day if they can, depending on what their workload is. But yeah, most of the guys are here all day.
So our
Do they get
5-hour show is nothing.
you
I mean,
know,
this guy's there 13
you get used
hours.
to it, but yeah.
No,
You-
they do get calluses.
A little bit.
Yeah.
You got to crash pretty hard after all that work, right? Like, you take a couple days for yourself after this is all over.
Yeah, if you can, yeah.
If
that's,
you can,
that's
I
the
mean,
goal.
it's not
But
always the case.
yeah.
But
Well, I don't know. We cover the tennis all year long, so we appreciate
do.
your time, and we appreciate your company, and the crew does to make the tour go around. Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Dennis.
Thanks, Dustin.
Dustin,
Learned
appreciate
a
it.
lot.
That was awesome.
That was awesome. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, wow.